Let me tell you about one of the best entrepreneurship books I've ever read. And no, it's not 0 to 1, it's not a biography like The Shoe Dog, and it's not something like The Lean Startup. Actually, it's not even nonfiction. The book that showed me an entrepreneur in his truest sense is actually a fantasy comedy novel called Going Postal. The main character, Moist von Lipwig, is, in the author's own words, a natural-born criminal, a fraudster by vocation, a habitual liar, a perverted genius, and totally untrustworthy. As he's about to be hanged, he gets a second chance at life to take over as postmaster for the city's defunct post office and challenge the much more successful, but not as reliable, near-instant communication method called the clacks. If that doesn't make you want to go pick up the book, I don't know what will, but let's talk about the entrepreneurial lessons I learned as Moist goes on his journey. Moist is the epitome of move fast and break things. And while I do agree that this might not be the best way for most modern startups to run, it's still really important to make a lot of progress and keep the fire going in the beginning, before you get bogged down by self-doubt, the expectations of others, and so on. In a funny exchange between Moist and Grote, who is a long-serving junior postman, Grote suggests that maybe they should take things a bit slower, to which Moist responds, "No, never say that to Oliver, never. Run before you walk, fly before you crawl, keep moving forward. You think we should try to get a decent mail service in the city? I think we should try to send letters anywhere in the world. Because if we fail, I'd rather fail really hugely. All or nothing, Mr. Grote." And again, longevity and endurance are super important for any new venture. You're just not gonna get a ton of traction in the beginning, and you have to be willing and okay with slugging it out for that time. But when you're in an environment that's very crowded, which seems to be anywhere to a market today, you have to set up and get going really quickly before anyone else gets a chance to catch up, even if that someone else is your inner critic. And also talking about this idea of failing big, it's important to recognize that everyone fails. If you're not failing, it means you're not trying anything new, you're not getting outside of your comfort zone. But would you rather fail doing something ordinary or something extraordinary? Well, that's the second thing about Moist as an entrepreneur. He is incredibly ambitious and he really understands the importance of image. This is one of the toughest things to cultivate, but if you give people a show, an image, something to remember, you're gonna have a much greater opportunity to be successful. As Moist puts it, attitude, expectation, and presentation are everything. This trait of his can be very dangerous, of course, if you're living in the clouds and making all these wild promises and proclamations. But the thing is, nothing worthwhile gets accomplished from attempting to do the possible. It's only when you push the envelope in whatever way you can, at whatever scale you can, that you really start to create magic. And yeah, not a lot of people innately have this. Think Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. Actually, Elon is a great example of this. He always raises the stakes automatically. Never promise to do the possible, because anyone can do the possible. You should promise to do the impossible. And if you failed, well, it had been impossible, right? And too much ambition is always better than too little. And this is actually something that I struggle with a lot. I am much more of a realist than a dreamer. And from personal experience, being too ambitious and having too many ideas, and then taking all those and whittling them down to things that are just beyond your reach is a much better thing to have than not having a lot of ideas and just swimming around in your little pool of possibles. And for me, as someone that abides by the golden rule of under-promise and over-deliver, I have to agree that it can get boring sometimes. And if you are under-promising because you're afraid of, putting yourself out there and extending, you're never gonna evolve, you're never gonna get better. And where's the fun in that, right? Like doing what people know you can do. So I think this idea of taking on an impossible project is something that you should do every once in a while, because it'll teach you more than you can ever know, and it's just more fun, to get out of your comfort zone. An example of this for me was starting a social media app based on sharing audio rather than images or video. It was genuinely an impossible task. The closest thing I had at that time was Clubhouse, and even that had a very different content delivery strategy. I knew it going in, but I still gave it a shot, and yeah, it failed. But we still built a banger of an app. I learned a ton about app development, which I had no prior experience in. And honestly, I think the reason we failed is because we quit too soon. I totally think that if we kept with it and grew it more, we could have gone full-fledged into entrepreneurship, but that just wasn't something I wanted at that time. One of the reasons is because I knew for it to get bigger, I would have to deal with something that actually Moist is quite adept at, and that's managing people. A great entrepreneur isn't just one that has a lot of ideas and passion, but one that can rally people towards his cause. whether that's employees, customers, or even the media. And the secret to this, as Moist puts it, is that everyone has their levers. This could be greed, passion, ambition, pride, security, altruism, or even just curiosity. And the secret to this, as Moist puts it, is that everyone has their lever. This could be greed, pride, ambition, curiosity, altruism, and so on. And once you can find the right lever for the right person, it's plain sailing. And yes, this can seem manipulative, and in some ways that he uses them, it is. But honestly, everyone has their own wants and needs, and the sooner you can identify them and align your requests to those, the more easily you'll be able to get things done. You don't have to pander to them per se, but knowing the person and their lever and gauging how they might respond to you can help you tweak your messaging for the better. For example, every time Moist talks with a reporter from a newspaper, he makes sure to seem more confident than he is, more memorable, because he knows that what she's looking for is a nice soundbite or a headline. And he makes sure to give it to her to end up on the front page and catch the attention of the city. I know that's a fairly obvious example, but even in your professional or personal life, next time you're in a conversation with someone, keep their lever in mind to come off as more impactful. One thing I love that the author includes at the end is this thought that Moist has the night after he beats the clocks. Tomorrow, he'd have to take it all seriously. Proper mail runs, many more staff, hundreds of things to do, and hundreds of other things to do before you could do those things. It wasn't going to be fun anymore. He'd won, so he'd have to pick up the pieces and make everything work, and come in here the next day and do it all again. This wasn't how it was supposed to end. You won and you pocketed the cash and walked away. That was how the game was supposed to go, wasn't it? And this is the reality of succeeding. Once you've achieved the impossible, you have to maintain it and keep improving. This is for a lot of people when the work really starts to feel like work. But don't worry about this too soon into your journey. What Moist and you should do if you ever feel like this in the middle of your impossible project is to go watch my previous video on it and understand how to get a better handle and be more comfortable with it. And finally, the book also shows you the negative consequences of embracing all these qualities without the right intentions. For example, promising things too great, and when you can't achieve them, lying and deceiving your way out of it can make you end up like Theranos. Having greed and money as your North Star and prioritizing your stock over the people buying your business can cause you to collapse under the weight of your imaginary riches like Enron. And as in this book, focusing more on your profit margins rather than your workers and the underlying infrastructure of your business can cause you to fall like the clock towers. The moral here, I guess, is to never think you're too big to fail. But at the same time, I think human ingenuity and creativity is incredible, and you should absolutely strive to bring out your own while working on your own impossible scenarios. Thank you so much for watching. Like the video if you did, and subscribe if you want to support me, and leave a comment about what you thought of this kind of idea of getting real world lessons from fictional novels. I really want to try to make this into a series, so stay tuned for that, and thanks. Bye bye.